What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again for another daily Manchester City transfer update. Before I do crack on with today's update, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content and you want to stay up to date every single day with all the latest Manchester City transfer news here on YouTube, then make sure you have subscribed. It is free to subscribe. Social media links are in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video. We're aiming for 400 likes once more, and do let me know your thoughts as well in the comments below. So we've got no contract news to speak about. We're going to dive straight on in with the outs. We've got the very latest on Manuel Akanji. Now, Ali Naci Kucuk, hope I've said his name correctly, is a Turkish source, has said that Galatasaray are not interested in targeting Manu Akanji from Manchester City as of right now. He says that Akanji's wage would upset the structure of Galatasaray's budget on their defence, and Galatasaray, because of that, are not going to be pursuing Manuel Akanji unless he does lower his wage demands, which Galatasaray are not expecting him to do. Akanji is on £130,000 a week at Manchester City. He said that there is a chance that Akanji could still leave Manchester City this summer, but he isn't expecting Galatasaray to be his destination if he does leave Manchester City, as Manchester City are wanting to look at the next generation of players. So any players that leave the Manchester City first team squad, City are wanting to have a good look at the next generation. So we're not looking here at experienced players. I don't think we're looking at players that are, between 25 and 29 years old. We're looking at the next generation, which basically means late teens. So we're looking at players who are 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. Around that age bracket is what City are looking at as the next generation. We've obviously already got Vita Hayes here, who falls under that bracket. We've also got Cody Husanov, who again falls under that bracket. So if Akanji does end up leaving, it will be them players that do end up replacing Manu Akanji. There is a possibility that City may want to dip into the market once more and have a look at maybe another defender, but again, I'm expecting that player to fall under that kind of age bracket. Manuel Akanji, 30 years old, now got 2 years left on his Manchester City contract, and is a player that Man City do need to think about in terms of the long term. What are they wanting from Manu Akanji? I'd be surprised right now if Akanji did leave Manchester City in this window. I suspect that this might be something we're speaking about maybe in 12 months' time. I think it's probably a similar situation to that of Mateo Kovacic. I feel like Kovacic, though, hasn't been linked with the exit door, and it's been all quiet on him because he's been injured. So I suspect that Kovacic will end up staying at City, and Kovacic will be a player that we'll speak about next summer when he's got 12 months left on his contract, and it could well be the same situation when it comes to Akanji as well. But if we do get any further developments and that stance does change from Manchester City, of course, I will keep you guys up to date on my transfer updates. Now, moving on, we've had a very big update on Ederson and Yagiz, Sabuncuoglu over in Turkey. I've said his name correctly as well. He's a Turkish source, once more close with information to Galatasaray, and he's been reporting that Galatasaray and Ederson now have a full agreement in place for each other to complete that transfer, to make that transfer happen. So there's two hurdles here in terms of this transfer. Firstly, getting that verbal agreement in place for personal terms, which is what's being reported here. So that's the first hurdle sorted, and that was a pretty big hurdle in being able to agree that contract, because Ederson still sounds like he's not on a lot of money at Manchester City, £100,000 a week. That is still a lot of money, in particular to Galatasaray. I'll tell you right now that there aren't lots of players on a massive wage in Turkey. They're not a club that's got all the riches that's available in the Premier League, so getting the personal terms agreed was always going to be a big obstacle, which Galatasaray have managed to negotiate. And the next big hurdle again involves negotiations, because it does mean that Galatasaray, now getting them agreements in place, are going to have to formally enter into talks with Manchester City to successfully negotiate this transfer. Manchester City do want a transfer fee, so Galatasaray are going to have to pay for Ederson. The question is, how much are Manchester City asking for, and how much are Galatasaray prepared to pay when it comes to Ederson? They will have asked Ederson's entourage, his agent, about Manchester City's stance on this transfer. Galatasaray seem pretty confident they can make the transfer happen. So if that is the case, and Ederson has agreed these personal terms and he does want to leave Manchester City, then I'm hoping there's going to be a quick resolution so it doesn't drag on, and Ederson can move on with what he wants to do and Manchester City can move on with what they want to do. The last thing we want to be involved in is a saga where Galatasaray are going to play low ball and they're not going to budge on their price, and Manchester City start asking for a price that's maybe unrealistic for a player who turns 32 in August and has 11 months left on his Manchester City contract. So I'm expecting formal negotiations to be taking place over the next 7 days or so, and I suspect that if everything that's been reported is legit, which at the moment it seems like it very much is, then I suspect that we'll get plenty of legs and development on this over the coming days. Anyway, Fabrizio Romano has said that Galatasaray are expected to go in with their opening bid very soon, despite some rumours coming about on Friday about Galatasaray wanting to go in with a €3 million bid, which had apparently been submitted, which was £2.6 million. So we'll see if that is their opening bid. It may just have been Galatasaray putting that figure out there into the press to test the water to see what the reactions are like, in particular from those close to Manchester City. As I've said to you guys, it's not going to be £2.6 million. I'm fairly confident that Galatasaray's opening offer to Manchester City will be rejected. Nobody accepts their opening offer unless it's a ridiculous amount of money, which tends to be the case when clubs from Saudi Arabia come in with players. They're pretty clinical at getting opening bids accepted because they're going with a ludicrous amount of money that turns heads, and clubs go yes, players go yes, and transfers can be done rather quickly, whereas with this one it is going to have to be negotiated. I'm not expecting the amount to probably be more than 5 to 10 million euros, so we're probably looking at probably somewhere between 4 and 9 million pounds in terms of this transfer. We'll see what the add-ons and agreements and clauses and everything that gets put in place, but as I was mentioning in yesterday's transfer update, you've got to remember that whilst Ederson's still got a good 5 to 10 years left in his career, there is no sell-on value here for Galatasaray, so they're bringing in a player who they're more than likely going to lose for free at some point once he's run down his contract. There's no sell-on values, and they're going to be paying a lot in covering his wages. City are going to clear him off their wage structure. They're going to clear a non-homegrown player off their potential registrations as well for both the Premier League and Champions League, and it is looking like City are going to replace him with a homegrown goalkeeper, which does help Manchester City to be able to register players who maybe for the Champions League couldn't have been registered, because at the moment we've got too many non-homegrown players. So Ederson would be one to leave and replace him with a homegrown goalkeeper. Makes a lot of sense in the form of James Trafford. It means that Manchester City now just need to sort out one more sale of a non-homegrown player, whether that be the likes of Claudio Echeverri or Vita Hayes heading out on loan, or securing another sale. Manu Akanji, Okay Gundogan have been linked with the exit door, helps Manchester City to go through their transition, so we'll see. And as I've said before, my stance is the same here with Ederson, that if he's not keen on signing a new contract, why run the contract down? If we can get a good amount this summer and we can start our transition early in their positions, then I would rather do so. I'd rather have a player who wants to be at the club, who's committed long term, than a player who doesn't want to commit more than the short term. So we'll see what does happen, and Ederson's just one of many players that City need to sort out when it comes to their future. Still don't know what's happening with Stefan Ortega. James Trafford looks like he's going to be the replacement for Ederson. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be Manchester City's number one, but I can't imagine James Trafford will want to sign for Manchester City unless he was confident that in the next 12 months he will be the new number one goalkeeper at Manchester City, because James Trafford wants to be England's number one, and the only way he's going to be England's number one is playing on a regular basis for a Premier League team, and playing for a big successful Premier League team like Manchester City. If James Trafford can nail down being the number one goalkeeper, then that would be a huge bonus for him. And speaking of James Trafford, we've of course got an update on him, and Fabrizio Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that Manchester City are working on signing James Trafford from Burnley to replace Ederson this summer, who does look like he's closing in on that move to Galatasaray. Again, there's something City are going to be working on. The negotiations will go on with Galatasaray, and in the meantime, City will be working on bringing that replacement in. Newcastle are looking like they're out of the picture when it comes to James Trafford. Man City have a buyback clause, £40 million. Manchester City also have a 20% sell-on fee. It means we get 20% off, so 20% of £40 million works out at £8 million. So Man City may be looking at a deal worth £32 million, and we get to bring in one of the best homegrown goalkeepers out there, 22 years old, the age that City would be looking for the next generation of player, and very much makes sense, in particular with James Trafford being not just a homegrown player but also a former Manchester City academy player. I think would be classed as a homegrown player by the club as well, which is a huge bonus, and it does allow Manchester City, I'm not saying they're going to do this, but we know James McAtee is going to be leaving. That would leave us with 4 homegrown players raised by the club in the academy. It does allow Manchester City to go up to 5 with James Trafford, so it does give a bit of leeway in terms of our Champions League registrations, that we could potentially see a player leave Manchester City who is homegrown and homegrown by the club. A player, not many have been linked with the exit door, but I know some people have been speaking and saying that they've got some concerns about Oscar Bob and his game time. He's a homegrown player raised by Manchester City's academy, so he's classed as a homegrown player by Man City's academy. So if he wanted to pursue first team football, City don't have to worry about the potential homegrown players coming in from the academy. It means City don't have to promote anyone from within, because I was speaking about that the other day, about if City did want to sell a player, then more than likely you're going to see someone like, for example, Jarmay Simpson-Pusey, who's been around the City first team squad, being promoted, so we can max out our squad when it comes to Champions League registrations, whereas bringing James Trafford in means that Manchester City may be able to focus more on player development. So rather than having Simpson-Pusey be around the first team squad and not get many minutes, the plan might be to keep him around the academy, the plan might be to loan him. So this signing gives Man City them options, and also allows us to bring in a high quality young goalkeeper. I do want to put a lot of emphasis that whilst I rate James Trafford, I think he's absolute quality, he will need patience from people, because he is a young raw goalkeeper. It's going to be a big learning curve for him. It's a big step up to be playing for Manchester City. He's more than capable of stepping up, of course, but he is going to need some patience. He's not going to be the complete article, not as of yet. He's probably not going to reach the peak of his career for maybe another 4 or 5 years, so he is going to need that time to develop. And I know a few of you guys have been saying that you'd rather see James Trafford as Man City's number 2, as an understudy and learning. That might be the case when he first comes in. He might be Ortega's understudy if Ortega ends up staying at City for the next 12 months, and the plan will be to phase James Trafford in over the next 12 months, that he can then become Man City's new number 1 goalkeeper, or at least competing to be Man City's new number 1 goalkeeper. Doesn't really make sense for City here to go out and bring in Diogo Costa as well as James Trafford, because what you're going to be left with is once more a goalkeeping situation where you've got 2 high quality goalkeepers, both good enough to be starting for Man City, and one's going to be left unhappy that they're not getting enough minutes and they end up walking away. So you want to find the right balance between having an experienced goalkeeper who's going to learn and teach a young high quality goalkeeper like James Trafford. So if Stefan Ortega does end up leaving City in this window, I would prefer to see an experienced player come in rather than looking at someone like Diogo Costa, because what we're going to end up with is Diogo Costa or James Trafford leaving Man City probably in the next 12 to 24 months because they're frustrated with the lack of game time. So I'd rather have an experienced goalkeeper who knows they're going to be that backup goalkeeper, who's going to teach the young goalkeeper some valuable lessons, and then they can come in and be required upon whenever we want to go and do so, which probably would explain why Man City have been getting linked a few times in this window with the likes of Marc-Andre ter Stegen from Barcelona, an experienced goalkeeper. So that's what I would do if I'm in charge, but I'm not in charge, and we'll see what angle City do want to go in, but it's very much looking like Ederson goes to Galatasaray. City want to bring James Trafford in from Burnley, and it remains to be seen what City want to do with Stefan Ortega and what Stefan Ortega wants to do as well, as he's also got 11 months left on his contract, and City sorting out some parts of their goalkeeping situation, but still got plenty of other things to think about when it comes to goalkeepers and other positions as well. But it very much means that Man City not done in the summer transfer market, and it keeps me busy So happy days. So that has been today's transfer update. If you did enjoy this video, please do leave it a thumbs up. We're aiming for 400 likes. Also, don't forget as well to get your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here. Press that red button, press the bell, and put your push notifications on. It's free to subscribe. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day with all the latest City transfer news, so do subscribe. Social media links are in the description as well if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships or any videos or any general business inquiries. And I'll see you all again religiously tomorrow for the next daily Manchester City transfer update. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.